understand that hoarding is disorder connected with obsessive compulsive disorder. People gather all kind of stuff and cannot help themselves. And also keeping the stuff, not trying to, like, that wasn't my intention. Some of the stuff I keep because I ran out of time to disperse and sell, or I'm a very busy person, so it gets overwhelmed after a while, and then you have a storage space, and that costs money.
Eugenia Lester is a former businesswoman who lives in Pasadena, California. She is one of the more than 3 million people in the United States who hoards.
Hoarding is commonly described as having too much stuff and having too much stuff that interferes with your life so that you can't function the way that you would normally do without too much stuff.
Mark Odom is a hoarding specialist in Irvine, California, who has been working in mental health for more than 25 years. He says he's seen it all, from meat hoarders to animal hoarders to people who even hoard medicine bottles and receipts.
Some people won't give up something because they feel like it's a part of themselves. And so part of the cognitive restructuring is helping them realize that that pen or that paper cup that's theirs is something that is not really them. A lot of people who hoard have this mistaken pattern of thinking that anything that they touch is very significant, or anything that's been given to them, say by grandmother or by their best friend.
First of all, I'd like to say, in respect to my mother, she doesn't like to be called a hoarder, so I like to describe it as extreme clutterer or extreme collector.
Cynthia Lester is Eugenia's only daughter. She has 3 brothers and left her mom's house when she was 13 and lived with friends when her mom's belongings took over her bedroom.
Growing up with my mom and her mental illness was, mostly it was for the hoarding. It was difficult because we couldn't bring, friends around. We didn't have clean clothes, we didn't have a place to study, we didn't have our own living arrangements, so privacy was very difficult, and so trying to have those skills growing up, like learning independence and having your own space and creating your own identity, that stuff is skewed a little bit because of the close proximity that we all had to live under.
She is now studying social work in graduate school at the University of Southern California in order to better understand her mom's condition. Cynthia went off to film school in New York in 2006, but she came back to do a project about her mom's hoarding and called it My Mother's Garden.
My brothers and I got together. We were really concerned about my mom's well-being. She'd been living in this house, and we had known that the stuff was piling up, and we didn't know what to do about it. She was very aggressive with us about the situation, didn't want help. And so we decided to have an intervention. And because I'm a filmmaker, I decided to use the camera as my tool to get to know my mom better. And that's when I started to just follow her around her daily life. And that's when I started to discover some of these patterns, that she would start collecting and churning things over and going through the recycling. And I was like, oh, okay, this is her coping mechanism. Like, she has chosen to fill her life with sorting through all this stuff as a way to deal with the fact that she may feel lonely, or she may feel like she's not really engaged in society. She doesn't have a job. Like, she may feel like she doesn't have a purpose. So this is her way to deal with that.
Go, Bill. Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. Stacy, you forgot to come back. Because I had to take care of children and the business. Yeah, and then when children grew up, I started recycling. I wasn't recycling when they were little. I mean, I taught them. I was recycling some because I remember that the metal cans that they usually don't buy I taught kids open from both sides, the metal can smash it, and then we can put a lot of in the box. So one time I took like 1,000 pounds in my car and I got only $10 for it.
Once the Lesters' old house got too packed down and more neighbors told the county officials about it, they were ordered to clean it up or risk losing the property and paying a fine.
Entering the house, you had to go in through a window because all the entrances were blocked off. One reason she did that was to sort of protect herself from people she thought was stealing from her from the outside. So she would sort of block off all the entrances to the house except for this window. So another thing is the piles got so high that you could actually step up right from the window and step right onto the pile, and which was maybe like 4 feet from the ceiling, and the ceiling's maybe 6 feet tall, let's say. There's only a few feet of distance between the ceiling and the piles. So the piles made their way on top of couches. Sometimes she had a couch on top of a couch with piles on top of that, because she had found a couch, in the alleyway, and she wanted to save it. So it just went into the house on top of everything else, and so that made the pile a little bit higher in certain areas. And in some of the other areas, the piles got a little bit lower and sort of turned into little tracks that you could follow through the house. But nothing was working. You couldn't use the toilet wouldn't flush, and there was stuff piled all around that. The shower actually worked, but the kitchen facilities, everything was piled up. At one point, she had one burner still not covered with stuff, but imagine the fire hazard that was if there's papers and stuff all piled around the other burners, and you're trying to cook on this one burner that has papers all around it. So yeah, the sink didn't work. There was leaks in the house, so this created a mold problem, and also all the stuff started to sort of disintegrate. So all the clothing and the papers and stuff would get wet. So a lot of the stuff when we cleaned was not salvageable. We had to throw it away.
It took 9 dumpsters to clean out the Lesters' old home. Cynthia's brothers did it while she took her mom to New York to get the place cleaned. But when she came back, she was devastated.
After the kids emptied the house completely, and I lost my china, and I lost some pictures that were valuable to me of my kids or my family from Poland, and I think I had the imbalance at that time because I'm a religious person, and I didn't understand why I don't want to live. I knew why I didn't want to, because what was happening to me, losing business and neighbors and so forth. I went to hospital, Gateway Hospital, which is mental institution, and I was still depressed there for another 17 years. What happened, I stopped eating completely. I was losing weight. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. So that's why my daughter decided that this, and my son's, is the dangerous thing. And when they came to visit me in the hospital and they saw me still depressed, I would be like depressed and no one to eat, no one to talk. I don't want to see a doctor. And so Cindy was scared, and she said, "Mom, why are you so sad? Is it because we threw everything from the house?" And I didn't answer first, but that's what it was.
At a hoarding summit in Huntington Beach, the Orange County Task Force on Hoarding put on workshops and panels presented by fire officials, lawyers, and professional cleaners. The task force began in 2004.
The Orange County Fire Authority has teamed with the Mental Health Association in Orange County in a hoarding task force, and that hoarding task force has got numerous members of local agencies, adult protection services, child protection services, vector control, weed abatement, animal control, and we all basically just do our piece. But when we all do our piece in total, then the team approach, you only have to worry about your one piece, and it's usually a lot easier and softer on the hoarder, but at the same time meets all the needs of the violations.
Fire inspectors Darren Johnson and Don Revelle take on close to 40 hoarding cases a year.
When we started our process of knocking down the fire, we couldn't access the house, we couldn't access the doors or windows. I can't even count how many holes they had put in that house to get the water in. But every room pretty much was ventilated and cut open. They didn't know that the elderly woman was even in her room because everything had fallen over on top of her bed and covered her completely.
Hoarding affects individuals of all socioeconomic backgrounds and can become increasingly difficult to afford the proper treatment.
Trying to find treatment for my mom was very difficult and still is. I called a couple agencies. One, UCLA has a treatment program that's supposed to be like really top-notch. It's an intensive treatment program, but it costs $16,000 for a 6-week program. And the person has to be able and willing enough to get themselves to UCLA every day from like 9 to 1 for 6 weeks straight. As you know, this problem is very debilitating, and it's hard to get my mom out of the house to begin with on time. So they're very structured in a way that doesn't make sense for the population that they're dealing with.
Now Eugenia's old bedroom is starting to resemble her old home. She also pays the same amount of her rent on her storage unit.
Oh, he took recycles to recycle place, but he has another cart going, so it doesn't look good right now. I don't like to call everything trash. I like to call it recyclable. I don't know if I do too much because I only get $1 an hour on recycles, so I'm just filling time between my classes. And if I go on a morning stroll, I clean the park at the same time, so for me it's relaxing.